Well,
he asked us that on the last one if we wanted to, but I figured
Yeah,
let
you're
him
like,
tell a story. You should have Jake start off the first one with him just sitting there telling what he's doing and who we are.
Like
yeah,
the narration.
something like that.
Thank you for tuning into this week's episode. This is a conversation between two battle-tested restaurateurs, Louis Ochave and Ed Sakunis, who have been in the industry for over 25 years. You are entering into the command center of our operations here at Chicho's. Again, I cannot express my gratitude towards you, the viewer, as we embark on this new journey into the digital world. In this episode, we will delve into our brand identity and what distinguishes us from everyone else, of what has kept us afloat and allowed us to thrive. Our aim here is to give you as much value as we can in our raw and candid conversations, through stories and of our honest thoughts. Enjoy. Let's see, I'm gonna start recording here. Also, be careful with the table taps because it's
He was
connected.
doing it last week. I was trying to tell him mid podcast. Kept banging on the table. The camera was jumping.
But we'll do something fun so people can see my face. I'm gonna pass this camera to you guys, and then this will keep you guys engaged. But this one dies 30 minutes in, so we won't have this the whole time. But
Right.
gonna keep you guys on your toes with this one. So I'm gonna pass it to whoever wants to hold this one.
What do we do?
So this is the introduction. We'll do a little fun intro.
Am I supposed to push anything?
No, you just gotta hold it and keep it focused on me.
Okay.
So today we're on episode 2 of the Chicho's podcast. That's just a filler name for now. We'll talk about that. I think that's pretty on topic of today's episode's topic, which is unique value proposition, or in other words, fancy words for brand identity. Like, what is Chicho's? So that's the main topic we'll be talking about today with Louis and Ed, with Chicho's. Got my glass Chicho's
Did you
here.
record on the two phones?
Yeah, I put record on that one
Okay.
too. So, yeah, but I just wanted to recap on last episode and like what's just been on your guys' mind. I think this will be our first segment of the podcast. And I'll start with Louis since he has the camera in his hand. I'll move this around.
So what is Chicho's?
But before that,
What was your
recap
thoughts
what
since
we
the last one or
yeah,
during the
last
one after
just
watching it.
thoughts on.
Well, I mean, I
everything.
think it's a learning process. I mean, we've talked about this for quite a while. I mean, I started my own TikTok page last January when I was in Florida thinking about, hey, we need to figure out how to tie the brand to social media and the active platforms. But, you know, it took me about a year to kind of accept the fact that we're kind of putting ourselves out there. So I think it's a learning process, something that we're going to have to get used to. But I believe, you know, I think it's going to be a fun experience, and, you know, we're going to learn a lot about the brand, probably a lot about each other, and hopefully we can grow from it.
great. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I mean, I think it got me thinking. It actually, watching it last night a little bit more, got me brainstorming about spinning off already. Once we figure out a name, I was thinking about how we could get in, you know, the other owner-operators that we have, and whatever name we choose, it was either like that after dark or that, you know, behind the scenes, that or something to where we talk about the operations that are like taking place now. I thought it'd be fun to get the group of characters involved in it a little bit, and, you know, hear their you know, their side of what they see us talking about a little bit, and then what their kind of take on things are now, being in the trenches of it. I think that would be pretty interesting. I was like, that's a whole other spin-off you could go down immediately. So I was really thinking, and it kind of, I was like, it was like a little humor watching it, wasn't it?
yeah,
Watching the other
people
one.
love humor. I mean,
So I was like,
they love the rawness.
I know this was meant to be kind of like, you know, educational and informational, but shit, I think it's going to see they really late already. I think it's going to turn into a little bit of comedic relief too. So
Yeah, I mean, that's what the world needs, you know.
So like, I was thinking of names like the business of Chicho's is funny, business is funny, something like that. I don't know. I just started really spinning with it because I was just laughing a little bit just watching it. I don't know if anybody else will laugh at it, but I was laughing at it.
No, I was enjoying it, and you know, I'm gonna try and move this mic a little closer to you.
Just give me a headset.
There you go. Yeah, maybe we might have to do that just because I know you guys like to move a lot.
I definitely will be moving around.
You guys like you guys are like I don't know. I don't want to say squirrels, but you guys say you call yourself squirrel minded all the time in the meeting. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're very ADD.
but that's like a symptom of the restaurant industry, you know,
It,
restaurant
it can.
business.
I think it's something that ends up being, part of the business because if you don't plan accordingly, there's always a distraction as soon as those doors open because you're in the B2C business, right? So
Mhm.
you have customers that come in as soon as you open, and if you don't get all of your tasks done that you need to get done to run the business, there's always a distraction.
Mhm.
So um, maybe that's a characteristic that was kind of built into us because we're always going left, right, straight, around the
Center.
corner. So yeah, ADD.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sitting still is pretty tough sometimes. So
Gosh.
yeah, you'll catch me moving around.
Yeah. So
But
at the end of the day, hopefully this will be some value that folks will get out from an entertainment perspective, a learning perspective if they're looking into getting into this space or are in this space and are trying to scale, and we can get into the weeds and what we do on a weekly, daily, monthly basis to keep us busy or keep us in business for the last 26 years that we've been in business.
yeah.
So
Yeah. Well, I did want to touch on some thoughts I had too on what's been on my mind with this whole series as I got Ed holding the camera for me. But I do really appreciate you guys taking this journey with me. You guys are probably, no, I know for certain you guys are the most realest and rawest people in my life that I know, just because of, I guess, how the nature of things go with not just being the restaurant industry. I mean, that is also a big part of success in the restaurant industry. I think is that you need that rawness and you need that, you can't fake shit, you know. You can't fake shit in the restaurant business. So it might be a part of that environment, but also I just, knowing you guys all my life, it's, you guys are the realest people I know, and I'm not just saying that just because, I don't know, I'm your son and then pretty much a son to Ed almost.
What is that like to you though? Because I know you guys. I guess generation's a little different. You guys are a lot nicer than we are probably, and I'm curious how does that affect you?
That's a great question. Do you want to take that one first, Dad?
Because we've asked you some pretty blunt questions throughout the past couple months about what your involvement was, and
Yeah,
I know it was
because
a difficult decision to kind of get to, and we just throw things at you. So.
yeah, I mean, we're coming on the cusp of 1 year since I started this journey of documenting Chichos and shit. That was, I did not. I mean, I knew what I was getting into. Like, I knew like the overwhelm that the restaurant industry had, and like I knew the stress, and I knew like the uncertainty of like what my role was here, because like really didn't have a definition of what I was doing.
Yeah.
It was just some go. My dad, when I pitched it to him, and I guess pitched to the team, that was like, you got to trust me on my creativity, and putting that creativity to the test is, it's very reflective of almost my own identity, and
Yeah.
like that's a scary thing to kind of put your identity into your work, because it's like you're giving your all, you're giving everything to this, I guess, craft, or I don't know.
I guess when you're conscious of it, because
Yeah.
I think we've always had to do that, unconsciously or subconsciously. Whatever
Yeah,
the
yeah.
word I really should be using there. But when you're aware of it, yeah, I guess it's got to be pretty
Yeah,
daunting.
because like when I think of this, I see my dad as, when he identified as himself as like a bartender, but you had to multitask. So I guess if I were to create that analogy, I'm like the bartender right now, focusing on the audio of the music while also serving the drinks and
Yeah.
being building rapport with you guys and making sure you guys are comfortable. So it's a weird parallel I see myself in now, but it's very fulfilling, and like I'm living the dream as a, I don't know, you guys have kind of built for me, and I hope maybe all the kids of Chichos kind of see the opportunity here. Till I don't want to list out everyone because I could probably go down the whole list, but yeah. Do you guys have any thoughts on that? Dad?
I was just curious
No.
on your input on it.
Yeah.
Your perspective. I mean,
All right. Well, I guess we could get into it. So the first question, of course, I think I asked this question to Ed 6 months ago in July. What is Chicho's? And I know Ed had a pretty good answer.
Yeah.
And my dad also, subscribed to that answer. But who wants to take a crack at it first?
I mean, I can start with the history of Chicho's. I mean, Chicho's, started in 1968 by two lifeguards. I mean, it's on our website. I mean, Nabil Kassir and Ed Ruffin, very prominent businessmen today. And Nabil ended up being one of my mentors, as you talked about mentors in the last episode, and gave me the opportunity to buy the brand. I was one of his first franchisees. He had established a hole-in-the-wall bar that served hot and spicy pizza slices down at the Virginia Beach oceanfront in this area known as the Block. And for, I would say the first 35 years of it, it was that. It was, a bunch of locals going in there. He catered to the locals. A lot of national artists went through there, performed at his other nightclubs that he had down at the Virginia Beach oceanfront, but always would go to Chicho's to get the hot and spicy slices that we were famously known for. He used to serve pizza out of the window. So, that's where we were able to, I guess, regionally or locally, the brand was established with that because it had been there for so long that you either worked there, met your spouse there, or got in your first fight there,
Got there underage.
Yeah. So, it's kind of changed over the years as we've gotten older,
Yeah.
And we talked about it a little bit, last episode about, how we open up at 11 a.m. and close at 2 a.m. is because, we originally started off as a bar. And then as we've gotten older, we've kind of developed the menu and focused more on the restaurant side of it, because that makes, and the business model, the restaurant side, in my opinion, would be a lot longer than the bar business, because the bar business is a young man's game, very fickle, and it's a very tough industry to maintain, in my opinion.
Work hard, play hard mentality.
Yeah, and it's a lot of temptations. A lot of bar and nightclub business is a very demanding industry. That's all in the PG rated form. I
You gave a good history of it, but to me, what is it? I mean, it's like we said in that interview. I mean, he's bouncing around it, but it's a lifestyle, and it's a lifestyle because it's based off of we've done it through those periods of our life. So Chicho's was what it was to me 20 years ago when I was 20 years younger, and as I got older, my life has changed. So Chicho's has changed with us.
Yeah.
And I think we held on to what we thought it was, maybe 10 years back from where we were, and we kind of realized, like, wait a minute, this isn't fitting anymore. We, maybe our own morals or ethics were like, we can't keep running these, same style businesses. Look, we live a mile apart down the street from each other. We have one right around the corner that, changed the identity completely.
Yeah.
The Strawbridge location, that's the identity going forward at this point for us, I think. And it's become Chicho's is a lifestyle for people that work there, who are involved in it, have ownership, or operators. But it's based off of your own life too, and that's I thought about that last night. I mean, it's followed our our growth patterns and how we've changed and what we're doing in our own lives now. And so that's really
like a slice for life. Yeah,
it's weird though. I mean, it's like it was the first business that I had ownership in 2003 when I opened the ODU one.
Mm-hmm.
That was my first one, digging trenches in there. I had to go to the emergency room, 30 stitches in my
Oh,
leg.
geez.
A piece of glass broke on it.
I want to hear more of that soon.
It was my life thing, but I was young back then and was ready to open up a college bar.
Jeez,
Then all of a sudden I got married, had a kid. I was like, this is not that conducive anymore.
Can't bring a baby into a bar.
Time to start moving things a little bit. And
Yeah.
that's kind of how we started transitioning, to be be honest. I mean, and
Yeah.
when we moved, we opened in Chesapeake. I actually moved to Chesapeake out there at that time.
Oh, the Greenbrier location.
We
I love.
live here now. We have
Yeah.
one right here, so it's kind of based on where all of our people have gone. We kind of just pop up there. So
Yeah.
that's where it's kind of like a lifestyle brand for us for sure.
Yeah, they do have a lot of fond memories with almost all the locations. Not all of them because there's just so many now.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that each location we always talk about has their own identity in itself. But
I'm sorry, but it's the lifestyle of our customers.
Yeah,
To be honest with
yeah.
you, because the people that are the customers, they've grown throughout the years with us too, and a lot of them had started at the oceanfront or knew us from ODU, and then they move out to the suburbs in different areas, and we have a location out there for them too. And it's like they always talk
the neighborhood
about it,
Chichos. Yeah,
it's their lifestyle as well. So that's why I went with a lifestyle brand.
yeah. Maybe we'll have a customer on the podcast one day once we get this really grooving.
Yeah. I mean, that's actually a good observation, Ed, because we've been around so long and people know it, and it's somewhat of a staple in the Hampton Roads area.
We've grown up with them.
Yeah, we've grown up. So that's why, very fitting when you use the word lifestyle, because you do have customers that, are in their 50s like me and grew up with Chichos and remembered the block days, but then moved out to the suburbs, and you can see the locations are morphed around the demographics within a 1 to 3 mile radius.
Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting how he makes that observation about us being in a lifestyle, because it is the lifestyle. I remember when we were down at the block, and when you start when you stop relating to your customer base, that's when you knew that you've either outgrown it or it doesn't fit anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And so, fortunately we had a system that with the inventory that, now it's time to let the younger generation take over, start bartending, living that nightclub bar style life, because, to Ed's point, I mean, it was,
You looked around and felt out of place.
yeah, you looked around, felt out of place. It's like, okay, this is not me no more. I'm that guy, when you go into a young crowd and you got all these young 20-year-old kids, and you're like, what is this 30-year-old guy doing in here, right?
Yeah.
So
That's interesting. I think I really want to dig into this more. I think, but that story you mentioned, Ed, really intrigued me. Do you want to go deeper into that when you got the glass shards and?
I mean, a lot of our people don't know. I mean, how many locations have we built from scratch recently? Just town center, right? I mean, that's what we used to do.
Yeah.
We find these things and just gut them. And I think the place where we were going to used to be a tanning salon.
Oh, what? A tanning salon.
So we had to gut the place, clear it out, had to, jackhammer the floors, dig trenches in there for plumbing, everything. And there was, I forget what it was. It was like a glass shelf or something that was just leaning on the wall. I went to pick it up to throw it out in the dumpster, and it snapped in half. And the plate that snapped just dove into my left calf.
Jeez. All right.
That was fun.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I couldn't imagine. Have you had any stories like that, Dad, where it's like,
well, I mean, I never really hurt myself. Well, I did actually pulled my back. That's because
legs.
moving a compressor, and my back has never been the same since then.
Jeez.
And this goes back to
He hasn't done anything to help it.
no, I haven't, and I learned. I mean, and so, but to Ed's point, I mean, it's part of the mindset that we talked about in the last episode, doing everything yourself to make sure everything gets done, because you can't depend on anyone else but yourself, right?
Yeah.
So, when Ed first got into, when he bought his first location and opened it up, he did everything himself. No different than what I did. When we opened up Crazy Charlie's, I was there. We opened it up in 2 weeks, did all the demo, did all the renovations. And then when we opened up Crazy Charlie's in Norfolk, we did the same thing. We gutted everything, had to dig trenches and put the whole new plumbing. And, that was formerly Batterson's. And we had bought the property and complete demo there. But we did all the work ourselves. And
Grassrooted it. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it's just part of what you need to do to get things done. And, we weren't well capitalized back then. You know, it's
There wasn't a choice.
yeah, it
There
wasn't a choice. So
we had no choice but to do it.
Yeah.
We couldn't afford it.
You had to budget and then stick to that budget no matter what.
yeah,
Yeah.
because we couldn't afford anything else, so we had to do it ourselves. So, you know, in a sense, that that experience kind of builds the work ethic and the characteristics that you need to run a business. So it's kind of like part of the journey. It's a stepping stone to keep that mindset that you need to do what it needs to take, what it takes to
survive
really.
and to grow.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a good segue into what I have, a little artifact here. I found this upstairs in the attic. You want to hold it up for them too, Dad? I bet you have. Do you still have yours?
Somewhere there's some around.
Yeah.
The
So
business card.
these businesses were the block. So
And read it out to people who don't see the video.
Chicho's, Crazy Charlie's, and Live, which was formerly Hammerheads. But when we opened up Crazy Charles in '98, 2 years later, one of my partners and I acquired the two bars next to us. One would being a Chicho's, and the other one being Hammerheads. And we converted Hammerheads into Live, which is more focused on live entertainment and bands and so forth. That concept probably lasted, a year, maybe. So that's another learning experience, and what we had to do to pivot and so forth. And then we turned it back to Hammerheads.
That was a good example of trying to dictate the environment, is what I feel. They tried to open up something that wasn't readily available down there for a certain, I guess, music taste or demographic or something.
Yeah, we were
like
trying
that.
to make it like a high-end
trying to
nightclub bar.
Yeah.
trying to change what was going on in that area.
And it
of
got
the oceanfront.
outcasted a bit. Yeah.
And the clientele won. They didn't have it.
Yeah.
It wasn't successful. I don't know if there's something we could have done differently to make it successful, or if it just wasn't the time or the correct direction.
Well, this touches on a good question, because was it the brand identity of Live that failed, or was it just the clientele? It didn't fit.
In my personal opinion, I don't think Hampton Roads has the economics and the demographics to support a high-end nightclub, which is why there's not one here today.
Yeah.
Okay. And this was 2000. This was 25 years ago when we had that concept. And I can't recall if there's ever been an attempt locally,
A
a few here and there, but they never last
Yeah.
because
currently
you
it's
can't
the
sustain it.
Shack
I
or
mean, this is a blue-collar town,
military.
transient. A lot of people come and go, and it's very
very spread out.
and it's very spread out. It's not high density.
like a major city is going to have everything kind
It's
of
not like New York
concentrated.
City.
Yeah.
Or,
the million people that we have in Hampton Roads is spread them with 7 cities.
there's actually a lot of farmland.
Yeah.
People don't realize that everyone thinks Virginia Beach is a beach who's not around here, but it's really just like a big suburb.
Yeah. So I mean, we made an attempt like anything else. Everyone's got an ego, and we tried it, and the numbers said otherwise. So we switched it back to Hammerheads and ran it what the demographics down at the ocean were at the time.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and I guess most people here didn't resonate with the brand identity of that.
I mean, it lasted maybe 6 months. We had the pretty people in there, people that were dressing up, the $60,000 millionaires that I referred to. We had some who was working it. I think we had Joe, we had Jimmy.
Mm-hmm.
We had some good looking dudes back then that were athletes from Old Dominion that were there.
That's
And
interesting.
we're bringing certain
Crowds of people.
certain clientele in, but you just can't do that every day or every week and be consistent. It's just, I don't know.
Yeah.
It didn't work. That's all I know.
Well, I think we could get into really the meat and potatoes of this episode. But what strategies did you guys use to attract, I guess, a loyal customer base? I know we kind of touched on it now, but how did you were able to maintain it? Because, there were probably a lot of brands that were made in 1968, but what is it about Chicho's that people really gravitated to?
I mean, the history, the one you'll hear all the time is everybody, it might have been their first bar they went to, was able to go get cheap beer, draft beer, and a slice of pizza, the hot and spicy sauce. I mean, that's, the number one go-to story you'll hear most of the time.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that has carried on. I mean,
Yeah.
your generation would not have any of those experiences, really, to be honest. It's probably just like folklore at this point. Like it's just a story. But that it still gets around, and people have heard about it. But I think that's the number one. And then it's really been about the people that have been, working in those locations. I think all over these years.
The people.
Yeah, it's a big people business. I mean, they make the brand. To be honest.
Yeah, I mean, we've tried to strive and ingrain this with our team every week. It's about the service and the experience that the consumer has as they walk through the doors, and same difference with our employees and our staff, because they're a big part of it. They're a big asset in building those relationships with the consumer that do come in, because at the end of the day, what are we actually selling, right? I mean, you can buy a Bud Light anywhere.
Get pizza.
You can drink a Bud Light at home. But one of the things that we stress with our team is that experience that the customer feels when they walk in as well as when they leave.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's one of the things that we've always tried to focus on. Now, we'll always have in the hospitality industry, you can't please everyone, but it's how we try to handle it afterwards to rectify the situation. But I think one of the big cornerstones of, when you ask what are the characteristics, is really pushing that experience that we try to give our employees and our customers.
That human experience, that human connection. I
I
think.
mean, why do you think so many people go to Chick-fil-A over any other fast food restaurant? I mean, yes, it's the product certainly, but that experience with their staff is pretty impressive every time you go there. I mean, you don't hear many stories about bad experiences going through there.
No, not at all. I mean, it's the culture that they put in there. I mean, I try to use Chick-fil-A's model as a reference point for us. I mean, one of the most successful privately held companies in the U.S.
Oh, it's privately held still. I didn't know that. I didn't realize that.
And open 6 days a week. I was just watching a YouTube channel.
Business suicide.
Oh yeah.
They're still growing in double digits. They're 20% growth from last year.
Jeez,
and what's good about them is that they're in no rush to grow. They grow based on the qualified candidates that they select. Mm-hmm. There's 8,000 people that apply.
You hear yourself just say that? There were no rush to grow.
I know. And so it's a learning.
Last year, Louis. I wonder what last year Louis.
So it resonated with me because I'm trying to grow, and he's telling me to hold back. And so they've been around for a long time as well. Funny. And it hit me when I was like, oh darn, they're right. They're growing at their pace. They selectively pick out of 8,000 candidates a year, they get 130. And 130? That acceptance rate is
top of the line.
Top of the line. I mean, even the Stanford or Harvard. I mean, I think they mentioned Stanford. It was better than Stanford's acceptance rate, or harder than Stanford's.
Yeah.
So
that's like the prestigious of restaurants.
Yeah. So they held core to
their values,
their values, and growing, and they're a different model from the other typical franchisees or franchising companies out there. And you can see how successful they are become because they've embodied that value of experience with their consumer. They stay true to it. Yeah,
stay true to their own brand identity. I
think, but it's quite impressive, and it's hard for us because it's sometimes. How do I say this? Getting everyone to feel the same way.
The buy-in is hard.
And get the true buy-in and be consistent about what we're trying to do. Mm-hmm. So
buy-in is probably the hardest thing to get from people, I think.
Yeah. So I think that's one of our biggest struggles. So, but, Chick-fil-A, when you bring that up, I mean, that's just coincidental that I just watched some...
We got primed yesterday in yesterday's marketing meeting.
Yeah, I think KP mentioned it to me. That's why she had sent me a link, and quite eye-opening when after watching it. So
But yeah, that's I wish we could do this, but it would be crazy if we put last year's Louis in the same room as this year Louis, and I wonder how that dynamic would be. But I
You could
mean,
put last week's Louis in this room with this week's Louis. It'd be different.
My mind goes, it
miles
changes
miles per
constantly.
minute, yeah,
Yeah.
which is it's a good thing, but it also is like you got to have someone like Ed to reel you back in.
Just gotta pull it out of his head here and there, figure out what he means.
But there
We
was,
did it yesterday.
yeah,
Sitting there
yeah.
talking about, what our, what we're trying to move into, a new realm or something, and what we kept going into is not what he meant at all. I was like, those aren't the same words. There's two words don't mean the same thing. Group ordering and catering, that's two different things. Hope you're aware of that.
Yeah. But it's interesting that you're able to understand his language, unlike anyone
I don't
else.
quite know why, but
Yeah, I guess the amount of time.
I think I just keep asking him questions all the time about it. Like, what do you mean? Like, and just finally I just pick up what he's saying, and I'm like, okay, all right, I think I got this.
Yeah, yesterday's marketing meeting was really fun, and something I really like is I don't know if I should say this, but Ed's 9 commandments. Maybe we share.
That's
Maybe
a weird thing
we'll
how
keep
that
it
came out.
secret.
I don't know
I
if
think
I
we'll
like
keep
that.
the 9 secret commandments secret.
Yeah.
And you guys gotta wait for that one to come out. But it's kind of like how we're trying to root all the locations into one uniform
It's my
identity.
goal.
Yeah,
Well, I mean, that's part of the consistency in the restaurant business. I mean, the expectation of the consumer, Chick-fil-A is using that as a reference. I mean, people go there, they do get a great experience when they go and get greeted by their team, but they also are very consistent in the chicken sandwich that they
Products.
that they sell. And so the consistency of what we're trying to identify the Chicho's brand so that our team understands that these 9 things need to be consistent.
yeah.
And so because we have ADD, we kind of divert and
It was a learning experience with the marketing group. I mean, because I don't think they knew how to get us to where they wanted to go until we just sat there and I was like, let's really figure out what we're missing because we were like a year into it with them, right? And we were like, okay, where are we at? And then what they were trying to get out of us, it took us a year to figure it out.
Yeah, I mean, it is a lot to handle with all these 9 locations.
Yeah.
And yeah, again, with each having their own identity, it is like almost, I don't want to say unicorn because, there's ways we could, I guess, build something and uniform it all together in one consistent manner that's, great. And I think there's a lot of people within the brand. I could just list a few here, like Potter, Reed, Rob, Babs. I mean, I'm just thinking a lot of people in Strawbridge just because we were there yesterday. But almost in every location, there's a lot of people that just exemplify these 9 pillars. And I think, and just Chicho's itself, I mean, I could go on and on about just people, but it's hard to, I don't know how you train that or how you systemize that in a way that it's, it grows.
That part is tough. I mean, we can have as much systems and streamlined processes and have our pillars or whatever we want, but yeah, I mean, it comes back to what we said before. It's the type of character of the people that you get, and they're what makes them them. That's really, I mean, that carries a long way.
Yeah. I'll signal to you a little bit.
And he always stresses that we don't probably put enough in recruiting and the training of the individuals.
And that's why I think
That is a
Ashley
big
plays
part.
a crucial role with that. Our brand manager, that's I guess the title. Is that the right title?
Ambassador.
Ambassador. Yeah.
It's the best way to just lay it out there.
Yeah. Because that is a hard thing
Yeah.
to take on.
yeah, and particularly in this business because most people being small business owners they focus on the people last. And there's some stats on there. We went through some training with the EO accelerators, and people is always the last thing that most small business owners focus on, and it's retroactive. And so for us to try to change that mindset and make our team and our managers be proactive in always recruiting and hiring, we sometimes fall short of that. So
Yeah. And I guess you do have to give yourself some grace because you can't always control people either.
Yeah.
And
No.
or you're just creating a robot. And people don't really connect with robots either. So there's like that little catch 22 on that. But I mean, speaking of challenges, I mean, I think people is like the biggest challenge with scaling a business. But what were some of like challenges with like us trying to figure out the Chicho's identity? I mean, we kind of touched on it already. We're kind of go like, what's the word?
Yeah, I think our lives just dictated which identity's going to. Your surroundings. I mean, each location, like you said before, has a unique, different, I guess, quality about it based on where it is, the location. So that helps the identity of those. I mean, but overall, as a brand, that's where we're trying to make sure we're pretty solid on. We set out. This is really what we focus on. This is what we do good at. I feel like I down us sometimes when I say we do mediocre at. I don't like saying that. You could always be better, but I also don't want to make it sound like that.
We're horrible at it.
Yeah, we're not.
I think we do a pretty good job. I mean, we've been around for so long, but
so we're trying to. You have to identify it, but it's difficult because, like we said, we want the best. We want everything out of our available hours that we're open.
Yeah, you're asking the world for people.
Yeah. So I mean, it's tough to lay down that one identity, but if we can list all of them and say this location might be a little more heavy on this, I mean that's okay as long as we're still focusing, keeping everything in that box.
In the greater ship.
And did we dictate that? No, I don't think so.
It's like a weird mess you kind of put together.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like, I would say from 2000 to 2015. Whoa.
Producers over here trying to. I got you. I'll just sit closer.
I just turned it. Now it's back on.
From like 2000 to 2015, we just kind of let it run on its own, right? Didn't really seriously focus on it. And then I remember when I ended up buying the brand from the founder, Nabil, that's when we opened up Strawbridge, and then we had a meeting. We're like, what is Chicho's?
I had a life-changing event go on in my life, and I didn't want to continue down the road what I was doing. And I looked at him, and he said, "You want to give this a shot? Expanding this brand?" I said, "Let's do it."
Yeah.
Wow.
And so that's when I ended up buying the brand because I was only going to grow with my partners and
the people
because I couldn't do it by myself. And so I remember sitting in Strawbridge, and we had a strategy session about identifying the brand, and at that time we picked on like 3 or 4 pillars and what we were known for, and I think it was like the hot and spicy sauce, live entertainment, friendly service. I mean, and so that was the core, and then we were like, but we're not just pizza, so that's what we came up with the tagline, more than pizza, because we weren't your typical pizza joint, or we weren't an Italian restaurant, and we weren't a pizzeria or just a bar or a Domino's, just carry out.
This was right after your dad told me Strawberries was going to be his thing. He was going to run that himself.
Oh yeah,
he was going to be the sole manager of it because he worked right. He lives right here.
Yeah,
that was going to be his full-time job, and he was going off into the sunset as running this place as his full-time job. And that was at a golf course. We were hitting golf balls at VB National. Yeah. He told me that. I kind of laughed in my head right then too.
That's awesome.
So the history of Chicho. So what happened was in 2000,
pull up some pictures.
We opened up the block. 2003, I ended up opening up 29th Street.
And that's when I opened up ODU Chicho's.
He opened up ODU Chicho's. 2007, we opened up the Volvo location. Yep. I think he ended up selling the ODU location.
2008.
That's right.
In 2008. And then
crash. 2008.
Yeah, well, I mean, so we only had like 3 Chichos at the time. And then I had sold 29th Street.
Yeah, we only had 2 at that point.
So we had 2.
Yeah. Greenbrier and
I remember Potter talking about that period of time where it wasn't owned by you guys, or
you had 29th Street back. No, wait a minute.
No, it was 29. I had sold it. It was only
Greenbrier.
It was right? Greenbrier.
Yeah, because Potter was working for someone else.
Yeah, he was working for the guy that I had sold the 29th Street location to.
Yep.
And then in 2012, So there was only one Chicho's,
Yeah.
and that was the Volvo location. I thought I'd sold everything in 2008. I didn't think I was going to ever get back in the restaurant business. You know, this is when I had Require, and he was working with me with a company called Deeds on Demand. So we were like, okay, like the lifestyle, we had outgrown our demographic in the nightclub bar business. So we got into a more of a 9 to 5 job that was tied to the settlement world.
Desk job.
Yeah. And so that was a desk job. And then in 2012, we were, the guy that I sold 29th Street to defaulted. So I had to take it back.
Yeah.
And then I met with Ed and I said, hey, do we want to get back in the bar business? Because he was running the Deeds company and I was running the Require company. And I was like, what do we do with this entity?
Yeah.
And we
made a phone call.
We made the deal happen, and
that's awesome.
I took it back because at that time
We called Matt.
we had Potter because we were like, what do we do with this? Because I was still on the hook for it with the lease, and we were still paying royalties from the Volvo location to Nabil, and he wanted us to continue to grow. And he was the one who gave me the buyer to buy 29th, who ended up defaulting on it.
I see.
So we ended up working at a deal. We brought Matt Potter in.
Yeah, don't tell his story. He can tell his story about that
in 2012.
Yeah.
And then in 2014, I bought it from Nabil. And then in 2015, we opened up Strawbridge.
Yep.
2016 is when we decided Hickory
10
opened.
years ago.
Yep.
Yeah.
Hickory opened in 2016. I think we took a break because we didn't open anything in 2017.
2016 was when we decided, because that's when I left. I stayed at Deeds through 2015. Then right about the spring of 2016, you and I had that conversation.
Okay. And
That's
so
when we decided.
Yep. But so when he says that I was supposed to just focus on Strawbridge, that was my intent, right? But we decided to grow the brand, and we ended up opening up Hickory. And then we took a year off and kind of
blew
focused,
up.
and then we opened up Shore Drive, and then we opened up Backstage in 2019. So every year we had opened up, and then during the COVID year in 2020, we opened up 11th Street.
Yep.
And then so COVID kind of hit, and then we opened up Town Center in 23.
Last year.
Yeah, last year and
24, no,
23
23.
years ago.
23, yeah, 2
And
years
then
now.
Pleasure House in
Holy crap.
24.
It was November.
Yeah.
Around there,
Yeah.
23.
It got shadowed by Town Center, but yeah 24, I'd
So-
say. Yeah.
You know, I don't know, but that was the intent. I thought I could do it, but being out of the business for so long and not truly understanding the restaurant business, because it was two different things. You got to remember,
The bar and the
I was a
restaurant.
bartender, more of the bar night style lifestyle, and the restaurant business is completely different. And
you had honestly probably never fully run a Chicho's up until that point.
Yeah,
You
no.
know, personally, right?
No.
I mean, it was just kind of like,
I ran a bar. I never
Yeah.
ran a food establishment, and
Yeah.
it's easy to be running a bar, with drinks and slices of pizza or just pizza. But when you have a full on menu and you have to seat people and all, it's a whole different
ooh, and
mindset.
It's a suburb area too. So
Yeah.
you had no choice but to fulfill those.
So we crashed and
Demands.
burned. We got crushed at Strawbridge when we opened up the doors. Didn't anticipate the
There was a lot of people. I could remember in my mind's eye of like how many people were in that
it was
on the opening.
the opening weekend, opening night. It was
You were delivering pizzas.
it was terrible. Lack of experience. We had to close, refocus,
Yeah.
and then slowly build that business back up. And that's when we realized that the restaurant business, we need to learn more about the restaurant side.
And I mean, even over the next couple of years, we always just resorted back. We always just tried to resort back to what we knew to get cash flow up. We always just said, yeah, we know we can, sell some liquor and beer in here. So we always would resort. I would say probably the past few years, we've decided, we want that business, but we're not resorting back to just that solely anymore.
Yeah, I think it has to really be event driven. Like,
Yeah, I think we've learned a little bit, how to stay, on the positive side of things, and it's going to, people are always going to eat.
yeah,
If you don't sell the food, you're not going to be open.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that is interesting. And I don't know why I'm remembering this specific phrase you told me, Dad, but it was interesting. I think this is actually 10 years ago, when Strawbridge was in the development phase or like building, and you told me one phrase. I was like, "In good times and bad times, people drink."
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that was like really interesting. I don't know why that stood out to me. It was like the story with also one of the electricians or something, the contractors at the time had like a flask of liquor in his back pocket. And I asked my dad, I was 14 or 15 at the time, 14, I think. And I asked my dad, like, oh, what is that in his back pocket? And he said, son, that's alcohol. And I think that's where the phrase was prompted from.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
oh gosh, I had another point. But I think related to, I guess, alcohol and like food and like entertainment, I had this idea. I wasn't gonna share this today, but I think it might be also a fun name to kind of brainstorm in with, I guess, our current list of names for this. But I had this event planned in my head for September, just because that's the month I was born, and it was Slice for Life. I think that would be the charitable event party that I had in my mind. And I guess this is me kind of pitching it to you guys. But I've had this idea ever since the Chicho's bus. So every year I think we'll have something big like that.
Well, I mean, I
September.
think to Ed's point, I mean, that's the fun part. That's
Yeah.
why it's a young man's game.
Yep,
That was fun.
yep,
And so
Those days were fun.
it was when cash flow was tight, all you had to do was throw a party
yep.
and
yep.
you can make your rent payment or your power, your electricity bill payment because you can get creative and throw a party.
Mhm.
And, you know, that is a young man's game. I mean,
Yeah. I mean, we have the fun police now. I don't
yeah.
know if
So,
you
I mean, it can be
Get them
fun.
on here. Find out what
But yeah, again, it's one of those things that it's a certain lifestyle
Mhm.
that I've outgrown,
Yeah.
and I just can't do that no more. But you know, when cash flow was tight, all you had to do is get creative, throw a party, tell everyone to come out, and you made the money.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, that's easy to do versus the restaurant business where you got to make sure the quality of food is consistent. You know, the wait time's right, and everything else. So it's a completely different business model.
I agree.
Yeah.
There's a lot of choices for restaurants. There's still a decent amount of choices for, you know, the nightlife and party scene, but there's not as much as, you know, choices for where you're going to go eat.
Yeah, but I mean, if you want to live that lifestyle, I mean, you have to live it. It's kind of like being a entertainment.
You're an entertainer.
You know, you entertain, and think about those those people, those artists that tour. You know, that's constantly what you have to do. You have to be,
the spectacle.
Yep.
you know,
Yep. It's like
and
the Romans.
It can be tiring.
Yeah.
So
The Roman Colosseum
Yeah.
every day.
You're not entertained.
Yeah. But we're actually already at 47 minutes. The time just kind of flew by. So we really only have 13 minutes left. And I thought we were going to have like a halfway point for us, but I don't know if we need that. So we're going to, I guess, the fourth segment here of like weekly motivations and sources of inspiration. In this segment, I really want you guys to kind of reflect and find one moment of goodness from the week or gratitude, one thing you're looking forward to, and one aim/dream you are currently working towards or hoping for. And I'll give you some time to think about it,
Okay.
and I'll answer for myself. And one moment of goodness from this week, I think, for me was getting this new camera and finally having, I guess, a reliable camera that doesn't overheat, which is the camera I was having in my hand throughout this podcast only runs for 30 minutes before it overheats. So one thing I told my dad last year was I wasn't going to buy a new camera until I knew I could make this my life's work or make money off of it. And I guess that was really, I guess, a symbol of growth for me, at least. Because really, I remember going in last year being so gung-ho of making like this Chicho's documentary, but having no idea how to do it and not having the right stuff or right skill set yet. But I think this is a huge stepping, I guess, stone for me. And hopefully, yeah, that's honestly another source of inspiration is, just Chicho's itself, the Chicho's brand, the Chicho's history. That, I mean, man, I'm kind of making it hard for you to follow up with this one. But Chicho's itself has been a big inspiration for me personally. Just being born into this brand. I mean, my dad talks about like the first 5 years of my life, but I remember one story where I was wandering in the bar, like maybe I was like a toddler and like not knowing where my dad was, and like my dad told me he would be right back, but I was just a kid,
Yeah.
and I guess these are kind of the sacrifices you make as like a family.
It was probably a pretty
You
scary
remember that?
experience.
I remember. I actually
Yeah.
remember that. I remember that situation. We were actually in Crazy Charlie's,
Yeah.
and you lost me for a second. You didn't know where I was, and I believe I was in the back office. And I think one of the employees grabbed me and said, "Hey, your son's crying because
Yeah.
you were out there wandering, didn't know where I was." And I specifically remember that.
Yeah, because
It's
I thought
funny
you
that
left
you
me.
remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you thought I left you.
Yeah, because I mean, I guess your imagination just goes wild as a kid, and even just a moment, you feel like your world is gone,
Yeah.
which is crazy. But one dream I'm going for is, I guess, honestly, the series. This has been a big focus of mine, and I hope I know it will go well. I mean, I'm not expecting it to just blow up, but I think we're onto something big here. And then I'll popcorn to Louis, or unless you got one ready, Ed.
I mean, good thing for the week for me, since I'll jump for you. It probably took me 2 to 3 months to watch our last interview.
Yeah.
I'm pretty highly critical of myself, and I don't like. This is not in my ballpark of what I really wanted to do.
Yeah,
You guys forced me into this. I enjoy it now, but it took me that long to watch that other one. I watched the other one last night. Like, when you first sent it to me, I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna watch it. Then you put it in the WhatsApp. I was like,
You
God, I gotta watch
it
this
now.
damn thing because other people are gonna watch it. But as I sat there and watched it, I enjoyed it. So that what I brought up the last week, it started becoming fun. I mean, because I told you I came here and I was like, no, I'm shutting up till we get on camera.
Yeah.
I had some bunch of ideas. So that's the good for me for the week. What am I looking forward to this week? Right here.
The Eagles, fly, Eagles,
It
fly.
also goes back to last week. I'm able to take my son. We're gonna go to this game. So that time that you're able to make, that's good. He's a big fan too. So it's a pretty. It's a big important thing to him, but it's really I don't know if he'll remember these as he gets older. I'm sure he will. He's
Yeah, he
spoiled
will.
with it.
Yeah.
But it's a fun time for me. What was the other one?
One aim/dream you have
Aim/dream.
or working towards.
I'm gonna have to think on that one while he goes with the
Yeah.
good and
Yeah.
what he's looking forward to for the week.
I mean,
Get a little pause.
I guess there's really no, when you say this is going to get big, I really don't have an expectation of where this is going to go.
Mhm.
I'm getting,
It could go nowhere. I'm just
Yeah,
having fun
yeah.
with it.
I'm having
Yeah.
fun with it. I'm getting value out of it at the
Yeah.
end of the day.
Yeah.
It's fun for me. It's documenting
A conversation.
so-
yeah.
It's documenting what I wanted, like I said in the last episode. So again, your kids can at least see my face, and in the world of technology, they're like, "Oh, that's Grandpa,"
Yeah.
right?
In the
And-
library of things.
in the library of
The digital.
the digital world. So
Yeah.
that's really what I'm looking forward to, and getting this documented for my personal generations to come. I'm looking forward. It's one of those things that it took me a while to kind of overcome, like what Ed was saying, and doing this and putting, your emotions out there, and some things that I've always said I've always been a private individual. I was always debating whether I should do this,
Yeah.
but it was one of those meetings where I think your mom was at, where
I do remember this meeting.
Of course.
it needed to start
we
with
said it had to
me
be
and
us.
him that do this before anyone else in the brand or the company do it. So, I'm looking forward to that and getting everyone else involved. So very,
I'm glad she was there because it did take her finally getting you to realize.
Yeah.
Instead of us
Yeah.
trying to push it on everybody
And
else.
yeah, you was
You
just
know, I
doing
didn't wanna
accounting
do it
work.
either.
yeah. And so again, it's one of those things when getting comfortable being uncomfortable.
Mhm.
And, at first it was uncomfortable, but now I think if we as we continue to do this every week, it becomes our normalcy, and we won't even think twice about it. Right.
Yeah. And once we enter, we're kind of feeling the comfort in the flow of things, and you kind of just lose your, I guess, ego, or you lose your sense of,
Yeah.
yeah.
But I think at some point, there needs to be
Something.
some kind of game plan to this,
Yeah.
right? Because
Yeah.
right now
Yeah.
we're
Yeah.
just kind
Yeah.
of
Ranting.
whiteboarding everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
building in public.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't know if I answered the questions. I'm kind of
You
You
didn't say
did.
good for the week.
my good for the week.
So
One
Oh,
thing
the good
you-
for the week is I booked my my travel plans for my leadership conference. I'm going in April.
Awesome.
Looking forward to that with my EO group. So it kind of
Ties hand in hand. Yeah.
gets me remotivated again, and surrounding yourself with other business owners throughout not just the country but the world.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a great win for me this week. Looking forward to, I guess, unfortunately, it's my birthday this Sunday. So
Unfortunately. Fortunately,
So-
unfortunately.
yeah, celebrating it with the family, and it's just another milestone that I was able to accomplish it before I turned 54, so to speak.
mortality becomes really weird as you get older with these birthdays. doesn't
Yeah.
it? Like,
50's a
So I was
crazy
like, you know what? Might as well do it, because I remember starting that TikTok page. I think I've
Yeah.
done 1 or 2 posts on it,
Yeah.
and it was supposed to be this
Yeah.
that TikTok page was supposed to be,
This.
This.
Yeah. Yeah.
and I haven't done anything. So
Yeah.
I can say I did it before my
55.
birthday.
54.
So that's
It's weird because we really only have, it puts things in perspective. We only have 30 to 40,000 days in our life, which is
breaks
crazy.
it down pretty strange.
Yeah.
It makes it sound very small.
yeah. And so live
short.
life.
Yeah, live life.
So piggybacking off of what he said, for my aim and my dream, I'm going to take it out of this and out of for helping our brand and I guess our partners. I wanted to get them involved in maybe a spin of this, or if they come in on these and see what they take out of it. Because I mean, like I said, I needed to be re-energized with it, and it's fun for me now. I'm curious what it'll do for them.
Yeah.
I'm curious what they'll learn from it. I'm curious what it'll make them something trigger for them. I mean, because it's got to be wearing me just hammering the same crap out of
Yeah.
week
Yeah.
in and
I
week
think-
out. The line, no one, for the most part, all of them are, trying the best to do what they're supposed to be doing, and to correct things if there needs to be correction, and it's got to be, pretty. I don't even
Fulfilling.
know what the word, but probably a pain in the ass
Yeah.
dealing
Yeah.
with me all the time, and maybe this will,
See a different side of you.
yeah,
Yeah.
and maybe they'll get something out of it, and say, okay, you know what, I kind of understand this now.
Yeah. And I think
So
it's
that's what I
yeah.
want to see out of it.
Yeah.
I like that. And I think a fun way we could do that as like a first actionable step is polling the title for this. Like we could give them a list of names and then they could vote what title
We
this
can
takes
definitely
on.
see what they think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
But we don't want too many cooks in the kitchen at the same
We can,
time.
at least we can get opinions.
yeah, we can get some input from everyone, and then we can make the final decision. But it's going to be interesting where this leads us.
Yeah.
I think now I'm going down that rabbit hole about the logistics of all this, because
Yeah. Yeah.
it can get somewhat demanding. They're already busy running their their businesses, right?
Operations. Yeah.
So
Maybe have a
this
run
is
and
like
gun
another
approach, yeah.
meeting that we need to add to their schedule and figure out.
Well, I mean, it would be like one of them, not like every single week. It wouldn't be the same person. So I mean, it could be.
And
We could have a
plus-
little round table or something.
Yeah.
But
We got PJ and KP to rely on too that we could really
I don't know, but I mean, I guess we'll see how it goes. But I think it's one of those things that
to think about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, where it takes us. I mean, sometimes
keep
we just do it.
Keep moving forward.
Yeah.
That's all we can do.
Yeah.
But we got 2 minutes left. So one word closes for this episode. Who wants to start us?
I'm doing 2 words.
2 words,
You have
right?
to take
That's
this
fine.
one.
That's
Go
fine.
Go Birds.
Don't
Go Birds.
We break rules.
Go Birds. I
Yeah.
break rules around here. Those are
break
my
rules.
closers.
That's what we do.
Hopefully I get to say it again next
Go
week when we do
Birds.
this. But go Birds.
Fly, Eagles, fly.
Yeah.
Oh,
Uh,
stomach.
I mean, I'm excited again. I mean, every
Excited.
time I finish these things, I get excited, and where's this going to lead us? So
Mhm. I guess I'll follow it with 2 words. I think it's euphoria and flow. I think that's the 2-word close, or 2-word close I got for me.
Okay.
Yeah. So
all right.
All right.
Well, episode 2. That's a wrap.
that's a wrap. All right.
Good job,
59
Jake.
minutes. It
Yep.
flew by faster this
It
time.
does move.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
was smooth. I think.
All right.
Yeah, got 2 cameras. We had 4 cameras this time. So
We're learning as
Now
we
you
go.
got some editing.
yeah, shout out to the editor in the Philippines. Thank you. Thank you,
Webster.
Webster. Amen.